everybody, welcome back to 10 Minute Reviews. This is every time. This is Freya. Okay. I'm Jason. I don't know why she's snorting. This is Freya. I'm Jason, and we're bringing you today's video. As always, guys, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. We're just a small family channel. Me, the fuzzy dog, the wife, a whole butt ton of books. And we just love to talk about books. And we want to keep bringing more books to you guys. And we would appreciate any support you guys might want to give us. Along those lines, check the links down below for the links to the book that we talk about today. Anything else that might be applicable through our Amazon affiliate link, please check it out. We need the traffic going through there. And, of course, our Discord channel. That's gotten a lot more activity lately. So please come on in. Let's talk books. So for today, I want to talk about book 2 in a series that I've already talked about in the past, and an author I've talked about many times. Fantastic author. I want to talk about Bruce Sentar and his book Dungeon Diving 102. Dungeon Diving 102. So 101 was actually one of the more popular reviews for the month that it came out. It was a fantastic book. I'm not going to talk about the 4 categories I usually talk about because I covered that in the first review. I'm just going to cover the book. The book it's awesome. I still consider Dungeon Diving 101 to be possibly the best Bruce Sentar book that I've ever read. And he's a great author. I've read a lot of his books. But Dungeon Diving 101 was an incredible book. It was an awesome book. Dungeon Diving 102 really doubles down on a lot of the things in there and really advances the plot. The second half of the book I liked a lot more than the first half of the book, which is the only reason that I still consider the book slightly inferior to 101, because 101 I thought was awesome all the way through, but the way 102 ended, the last half of the book just took off, and I can't wait for the third book. Absolutely cannot wait for the third book. So we return to Ken Nagato, I believe his last name is, and his continuing education within this dungeon delvers school, where he is the only male. It's traditionally an all-female school. Only he's been sponsored by Crimson, and from the first book, he's gained accidentally gained the elven fiancée, and he's continuing to learn. He's continuing to gain more power while continuing to learn how to do what he does, how to continue doing what he does, and more about himself, because he had that mystery class that we finally figured out what it was at the end of the last book, but it just led to more questions. This class is supposed to be extremely powerful. This class has strong ties to the elves that are just now beginning diplomatic ties with the humans, and theoretically, in a way, this particular class almost would make him some form of potential ruler of the elves, especially since he is engaged to an elven nobility. And of course he has the rest of his women. And we continue to learn more, not just about Ken and about his class. We learn a little bit more about the people that are hunting, not necessarily him, they're more hunting the elves, or they're more against the elves and their burgeoning alliance with the humans. So they're trying to sabotage that, and they're trying to do damage to the elven representative, who is a noble, and that would cause a major diplomatic incident. Also happens to be Ken's fiance and part of his harem, and would obviously take him off a little bit. So we have some issues going on with that. And then we start getting some hints about some of the issues that may be occurring with Crimson and why Crimson needs Ken. And we get some more information on that. It's very fascinating. And Bruce Sentar is hilarious. He writes so funny. And some of the other point of view stuff that he writes within this book, other people's point of view, like one section that's written from Crimson's point of view, is just a riot. It's just an absolute riot. Now, the thing I didn't like in the first half of the book was it didn't seem to advance the plot all that much. It was mostly just him jumping in bed with every single one of his women multiple times, got really old really fast. I started skipping through, and next thing you know, I get to the second half of the book. I'm not sure if there was an adult scene in the second half of the book. It was just an unbelievable book, just incredible. As we continue to advance Ken's class and learn more about it, learn more about the elves and those classes, get a few hints of some things that just quite ain't right with the elves that is figured out by Crimson primarily, although Ken, I think, had some suspicions. So we get that figured out, find out more about Crimson, find out more about what's going on with this anti-elf league or anti-elf federation. I think it's AEF, something along those lines. Find out more about those, find out a bit more about the dungeon and what's going on, and more importantly, and a lot more fascinating, we find out more about Ken's family. Ken's grandparents end up coming into play, and we learned some pretty incredible. We already knew that Ken's family he comes from a family of assassins. Definitely ninja overtones here, and it's even mentioned a couple times, kind of joked around a couple times in the book. Oh, he comes from a ninja clan, stuff like that. And we're kind of getting those hints. One thing I like about this book is we managed just the world that Bruce has managed to build is absolutely incredible, because we have this fantasy elements, we have the lit RPG elements, we have the dungeon elements, and yet we also have a lot of modern time stuff. He makes phone calls. They watch TV. They catch a plane flight. Only they're so powerful they could survive a deliberate plane crash. They can just plow the plane into the ground and just walk away from it. And of course, there's skills that would allow you to also, travel without a plane. But after a major attack against Ken that he does fend off, he decides to go ahead and call in his family, his grandparents. And from there, we learn a lot more about it. There were already hints in the first book, a lot of, no, I can't even call them hints because they were pretty much just thrown right there in our face, of how Ken's training from these extremely powerful, extremely famous grandparents of his, how his training doesn't seem to go quite so much towards dungeon diving and fighting monsters as it does fighting and killing people. So that gets mentioned a lot, so we finally find out a little bit more. We already know it's a family of assassins, but it turns out they functionally are a clan of assassins. Now they generally work-ish for the good, but they are absolutely assassins. And we get basically a Knight of 1,000 Knives at one point that's just absolutely fascinating and hilarious and marginally horrifying, that his family is incredibly powerful. And we start learning that they're rich, and they actually have a network. They just spun it down, but now up to Ken if he wants to continue it or not, and he chooses to have them start spinning it up, which then of course leads to the fact that they actually have a private plane, they have estates, they have a lot more power than we thought. And what Dungeon Diving 102 really seems to be is it seems to be a very cool little bridge between the introduction of book one, that was just one of the best books I've read in a while, definitely the best Bruce Sentar book, and the overall plot that I think is going to be coming out in 103 and probably 104. One thing I really like about Bruce Sentar is he writes his books in finite series. This isn't going to be an infinite series. I'm sure he has an end game in mind, be it 3 books, 4 books, 5 books, 6 books, but there will be an end game in the next few years, which I think is awesome. And this book set up so much of it. So if you guys are a fan of lit RPG, Bruce Sentar, the harem lit of fantasy, you gotta check it out. Dungeon Diving 102 by Bruce Sentar. Absolutely phenomenal. Thank you everybody for watching. We will catch you next time. Bye now.